Hello lovelies, today we're going to be making this cute little Pusheen in an Easter egg, and she's all dressed up in her Easter tail and bunny ears. This is a perfect little gift to put in an Easter egg for a child who loves Pusheen the cat, or to make for yourself as a little desk pet at work or something like that. She's not super miniature, she's about an inch and a half tall, and it's more suitable for an older child instead of like a dollhouse. So let's get started. You're just going to need some gray wool to make her body. This is a pretty basic tutorial for anyone who's new to needle felting. I do have an even more basic one of just making a little heart diffuser charm. I'll put that link in the info box below. But go ahead and roll your wool pretty tightly and use your biggest gauge needle to felt just a little bit, just to get your everything to stick together. And then after getting it to stick together for the most part, I'm going to be switching to a middle gauge needle. So just mine are color coded, but I don't even know the gauges of these. I just know that the sizes, because the resistance is a little less with different ones. So just find the middle one that gives kind of middle resistance, and I'm going to be using that to do most of the body shaping in this first part of the video. And just felt all over, make the body just a little bit tighter. She's going to be standing up, of course, and we'll be making her ears along with her body. We're not going to make separate ears for Pusheen herself, just her bunny ears will be separate. So once you're happy with kind of the cylindrical, puffy, fluffy body shape, you'll want to start felting a little line across the top, and this is going to start shaping her ears. And it just kind of gives some separation in the top of the body, and her ears are real short and close to her body, so this is why we're able to do this with her. And just continue shaping, and then when you're happy with her basic cat ears and her body, we'll move on to making her face. So when you're happy with her shape, go ahead and make 2 little tiny eye sockets, and then roll up a very small amount of black wool to make her eyeballs. And then you're going to need to tease out a little line of black wool to make her nose and mouth. And this video is sped up, so just keep that in mind. It's more important to go slowly and not stab yourself, as well as getting your felt in the right place. If you mess up, you can always felt right back over it with some more gray wool, but that's can be a pain if you already have part of the mouth looking right. So just go slowly and make definitive little stabs and get get the shape in there, and you can always go back and clean it up. You just want to make sure it's in the right position before you, trim it or felt it down. Just using embroidery scissors right here. A lot of needle felting kits, like the one that I recommend on my blog post and the link below with all of these supplies, they come with shears. Mine didn't, but I like to embroider, and I sew a lot, so I already had those tiny little scissors, and it's just nice to have the really, really small ends of the scissors so that it's easier to work with more miniature felting pieces. Right now I'm just really trying to clean up and shape the nose and mouth lines the way I want them, just kind of working back and forth on the sides, and then go ahead and tighten up the body a little bit. Just felt all around and make sure it's nice and stable. And then the ears, of course, right here, I'm making them a little more defined. And then now we're going to go ahead and move on to making her little paws. And you're going to want just to make them really small, because that's what she looks like in the comic. She has these tiny little paws that stick out from her fluffball body. So just kind of roll it between your fingers and felt it with the needle just to make it stay in place. And then when you're happy with the size relative to her body, you'll go ahead and felt that, and the little tail of wool, felt that onto her body, and it should stay in place. And then I didn't record making all 4 of them because it would have made the video a lot longer. So go ahead and make 3. You can pause the video and then make 3 more and put them in place, and then we'll go ahead and move on to her tail. Just trying to make everything look more natural, felt everything down from her little legs, and make sure I don't have any little bits and pieces sticking out. And I lied before, we're gonna make her ears, not her tail. Find a really thin piece of white wool and make a small triangular shape, and just keep felting that down and then moving the wool back and forth so that it builds up layers of wool and felts an ear that is actually thick enough to attach to her body and stick up. So if you put too much, that's what I just did. If you use too much wool, you can just pull pieces off and continue with what you have left. And then you'll need a tiny little bit of pink to go over it to give the inside of the ear a little pink. And you don't need to try to make this a triangle, just felt a line to start, and then just felt over it and over it, because it'll be thick enough to kind of shape inside the ear. You don't need to try to make it a triangle, because it won't go. It'll just cover up all the white. So anyway, you're going to need to make 2 of these. I only recorded 1 because I didn't want to, spend too much time on that either. So go ahead, and if you're following along, go ahead and pause and make a second ear and kind of felt them together, and then we'll attach them to Pusheen. Okay, so I've obviously added the second ear. It's a little smaller than the first one and a little wonky, kind of to match what it looks like in the books. And then you just want to felt the little frilly tails of the ears onto Pusheen's back, and then cover the white and pink wool with a little more gray wool. Just kind of wrap it around and cover that up. It occurred to me after I made the video that I forgot to put the two little darker gray stripes on Pusheen's back, like in the books. So if you want to do that with some darker gray wool, you can. I actually don't have other gray wool besides this one color, so you can mix some acrylic paint with fabric medium, and that is good for putting paint on fabric, and it keeps it from chipping off or painting off or whatever. So anyway, let's move on to making her tail. This is just some white wool. Tie a little bitty knot and kind of roll it around in your fingers, and you don't have to be exact with this. It's supposed to be a little cottontail, so it can be a little lumpy and wonky, and it's you know, supposed to be her little costume. So just make it as round as you want or as lumpy as you want, and felt that onto her backside, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, so for her whiskers, I didn't record this part, but I just cut a little bit of fishing line, and just clear fishing line, and then painted it with some dark, or with some black nail polish, and let it dry, and then cut it to smaller pieces, and I'm just attaching it with some fabric glue. It's actually easier. I tried to make a little like pre-hole for it, but that's not how, I always forget, that's not how needle felting works. You have to, when you felt it, it makes things tighter, and so you have to, it makes the wool tighter. So it was a lot easier to just stick the fishing line straight, the whisker straight into the other side of her face with the glue on it. I didn't really have to adjust that one nearly as much as I did the one where I tried to make a pre-hole, because it's not like working with clay, it's kind of working backwards when you're sculpting with wool. So anyway, those, I kind of played around with them, how to, you know, how I wanted them to come out of her face and how I wanted them to look. So and the length, you can cut to whatever length you want, and if you have to re-glue it because they're just not wanting to stay in the right place, just, you know, stay patient, and they'll eventually go where you want them to go. I'm using jewelry tweezers right here. I have a link for these on the blog post as well. If you like working with miniatures, or you like working with jewelry, obviously, or if you plan on getting into doing a lot of animal needle felting and things like that, these tweezers are really, really good for that, because they have very small ends, and it's really nice to be able to do these nitty-gritty tiny projects. So anyway, I recommend those. Once your glue is dry, your little Easter Pusheen is finished. If you like this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up, and if you have any suggestions for future projects, other animals or other crafting projects that you'd like to see tutorials for, go ahead and leave those ideas in the comments below. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.